Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the classic fairy tale, Cinderella. Now, unless you're a wizard from the Harry Potter universe, you're basically guaranteed to have heard of the story Cinderella. You've probably seen at least one of Disney's adaptations of it. You've quite possibly also heard that Disney Cinderella was adapted from the Grimm's fairy tale, Cinderella. Of course, being a book-to-movie adaptation, there were some changes made. Disney created a timeless, family-friendly movie out of some strange and kind of dark source material. So, if you want your childhood ruined, you're in the right place. But before we talk about Cinderella, there is something we need to address. Look at my copies of Grimm's fairy tales. This is so pretty. Okay? Gold foil edges. This spine. Okay, are we seeing this? This is so pretty. Back. It's so shiny. I'm in selfie mode, so I'm trying to make sure I get the light hitting it at a really good way. It's got decoration on the inside. This thing, I just need to make sure that everyone's aware. This is gorgeous, okay? This is what I'm reading from. So, yeah. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about birds pecking out eyeballs. But before we get to that, first, dear Cinderella's mother has to die. It's unfortunate, but with her dying breath, Cinderella's mother told her daughter to be pious and good all of her life. Then Cinderella's dad remarries to a woman who makes her into a maid, so that's not working out too well for Cinderella right now. Now, Cinderella plants a hazel branch over her mother's grave. She goes out there like 3 times a day and cries over it because she's a very sad little girl who's basically enslaved at this point, so, she's reasonably sad. Anyways, she cries so much that the branch grows into a tree. Now, I don't know much about trees, but I kind of don't think that's how it works. It's like, anyways, in the story, it does work. Giant tree grows out of this branch that Cinderella planted on her mom's grave. And in that tree, there is a white pigeon. Now, the pigeon is basically the fairy godmother in this version. It throws down whatever Cinderella wishes for. Because, as we all know, pigeons are very strong creatures. Naturally, there's a king in this story who's trying to find a son and bride. So he throws a ball. Or in this case, a multi-day festival, which is basically just a really, really long ball. Cinderella wants to go to the ball, but her stepmother refuses to let her unless she completes a very, very practical chore. See, the stepmother threw a bowl of lentils into the ashes, and Cinderella has to pick all of the lentils out of the ashes and put them back in the bowl. And if she does that, she can go to the ball. If you think that sounds weird, you are not alone. I don't know why this is what the stepmother thought of. It seems really convoluted and unnecessary and unhelpful, because aren't lentils food? Couldn't they be eating these things? Are they still gonna eat them after they've been in the ash and are like all covered in ash? This seems really counterproductive, but that's what stepmother does, and so Cinderella gets her birdie friends to pick them on the ashes for her. So, you might think, yay, she gets to go to the ball! But no, the stepmother throws 2 bowls of lentils in the ashes. And so the same thing just happens over again. Cinderella gets the birds, they pick them on the ashes, but then the stepmother says, yeah, you still can't go. So, they leave her. Poor little Cinderella goes out to this tree on her mother's grave and cries a lot. But then the birds throw down a dress of silver and gold. Yeah, silver and gold, not blue. Okay? There's no blue in this story. The original Disney cartoon Cinderella Her dress was this pale white. It wasn't even blue. Everyone is so fixated on Cinderella being connected with blue, but there is actually, there's no context for that. She never wore blue. Also, her slippers are not made of glass in this one. They're made of silk. Silver and gold silk. So, I also don't know where the glass came from. I may have to actually look that up to just see, because there's no glass in the story. Anyway, she goes to the ball and everyone thinks that she's some mysterious foreign princess, because she's dressed so pretty in silver and gold. The prince dances with her all night long, they have a great time, but then when it's time to go home, the prince wants to go, with Cinderella to her house to meet her family and everything. Cinderella takes him to her actual dress because she's kind of a moron, and then she runs away from him and hides in the pigeon house. Yeah, pigeon house. That's a thing? I don't know if Cinderella's family just has pigeons or if they, breed pigeons, but there's a pigeon house and Cinderella hides in it. Now, it's time to play a little game. When your date runs away into a pigeon house, do you A, follow her inside the pigeon house? B, don't follow her, but go up to the pigeon house, knock on the door, and see if she's alright? Or C, take a hint and leave? If you answered any of the above, you are wrong. The correct answer was obviously to wait until her father arrives and tell him, hey, this mysterious woman ran into your pigeon house, and then he'll go and get an axe and a pickaxe, and I'm gonna pause and go to the book for this one. Okay, you may think that my little pause was weird, but this is important that I get the wording right. Okay. So, the old man thought, can it be Cinderella? No, there's just random women running into your pigeon house to hide from a prince. And they had to bring him an axe and a pickaxe that he might hew the pigeon house to pieces. Why? Why was that your first thought? Clearly the prince likes this girl, and yet she ran from him. So he decides, hey, let's just bust this pigeon house to pieces. You could have killed her, okay? An axe and a pickaxe, those are dangerous things. You're just destroying this pigeon house. And aren't there pigeons in this thing? Are the pigeons okay? No, nothing in this discusses the pigeons. I'm kind of concerned for their safety. I feel like at least one had to have been injured, quite possibly killed. But the book doesn't care about that, so I'm just gonna move on. So, Cinderella was not inside the pigeon house. She slipped out the back and ran into her house. So somehow, the prince, who I can only assume was just standing there, staring at the pigeon house, waiting for her to come out or something, he didn't see or hear her running into the night. How does that work? Is he literally blind and deaf? Because I think I would have heard something. Or seen this woman in a ball gown running through the yard. So Cinderella's dad goes back to his house, but finds Cinderella sleeping in the fireplace ashes, back in her peasant clothes. So, at that point he figures, oh yeah, it's not her. It's definitely not my daughter. She couldn't have changed clothes. That's very unrealistic. So he just drops it, and as far as I can tell, never has a conversation with her about whether or not she was the one hiding in the pigeon house. On the second night of the festival, pretty much the same thing happens. Cinderella goes out to the tree, gets a pretty dress, again, not blue. Then she goes to the festival, She dances with the prince all night, they have a great time. He goes back home with her, and then this time, she doesn't use a pigeon house, because it has been hewn to pieces. So she runs up a pear tree and hides in it. And then her dad comes with an axe again and chops it down. I'd be concerned for her safety because you're chopping down a tree with a human being in it. But no, Cinderella is not in the tree. Cinderella was able to slide down the back of the tree and escape. Now, if you've ever worn a ball gown or a long dress or even climbed a tree, you might be questioning this. Because there is no way a human being in a ball gown could climb a tree and not make a huge racket. And unless this thing was mistranslated from giant redwood, the prince would have seen her. Is Cinderella the skinniest human being to ever exist? Because I don't think pear trees are that big. How did he not see her? Now at this point you may be thinking, okay, it's kind of weird, but it's a fairy tale. Who cares? It's not like my childhood is ruined in any way. Just wait, because we have reached the third night of the festival. So this time, Cinderella gets another pretty dress and slippers, which are described as being golden. Now, it's not totally clear if that means they're golden color or if they're literally made out of gold, but I'm inclined to believe the latter. I think these are actually like gold slippers. So we're gonna go with that. I may be wrong. I don't know. This time, Cinderella decides to ditch her prince before he can go home with her. I guess she was kind of tired of things in her backyard getting ripped to pieces with axes, so she runs. But the prince is a smart prince. He covered the entire staircase with pitch, and one of Cinderella's golden slippers gets stuck in it. So again, I've got a few questions. Did he know for sure she was going to take that staircase? Is that the only possible exit point? Because otherwise, he would have had to cover like 20 exits in all these staircases in pitch to be totally sure she wouldn't escape. But if the staircase is the only possible exit, how's everyone else supposed to get out without getting stuck in the pitch? Did he know for a fact she would leave first? I have questions. Obviously, there's not going to be answers to any of these questions, so we're just going to keep going. The prince finds the shoe, somehow doesn't get stuck himself, I'm assuming. I mean, I think it'd be kind of funny if he did, but we're going to assume he didn't get stuck. So the prince vows that he will only marry the woman who fits the golden slipper. Hear that? Golden slipper, not glass slipper. As I said before, Cinderella gave him her actual address, so the prince knows to go straight to her house. Of course, Cinderella's a maid, so it's her sisters who are brought out to try on the shoe. Lucky for them, they had pretty feet. I don't know how this helps with the sizing issue, but the book felt it was necessary to mention, so nice for you. You got pretty feet. You're horrible people, but you got pretty feet. The eldest sister takes the shoe into her room to try it on. But since there can only be one person with this specific shoe size, it doesn't fit. Never fear. Stepmother is a creative problem solver. She grabs a knife and has her eldest daughter chop off her toe. I'm going to pause for a minute and let you guys just take that in. This woman's solution was to have her child mutilate her foot, because apparently queens don't need to go anywhere by foot. Of course, in classic prince fashion, he doesn't register that he has never seen this woman's face before. He just sees, oh, yeah, shoe fits, gotta be her. So he takes the stepsister and they ride off. But when they pass the hazel tree above Cinderella's mother's grave, the pigeon sings a little rhyme and tells the prince hey, there's blood pouring out from that woman's shoe. And when he sees the blood pouring out from this woman's shoe, he thinks, maybe this isn't the woman I'm supposed to marry. So he takes her back and decides, you know what? This sister took the shoe out of the room, and then she cut her toe off. That was a bad thing. But we can trust the second sister, so he lets her do the same thing. This time, her heel doesn't fit. So our creative, problem-solving mother has her cut her heel off. The prince doesn't think, maybe I should check the shoe to make sure it's not filled with blood. Once again, it takes a bird singing a rhyme for him to look down and see even more blood pouring out this woman's shoe. He takes the second stepsister home and asks the father, do you have any other daughters? I will once again be returning to the book for this part. For some reason, I didn't bookmark Cinderella. That was a really dumb thing for me to do because I keep having to flip to it, and I don't know what page it's on. This is also not the right one, said he. Have you no other daughter? No, said the man. There's a little stunted kitchen wench, which my late wife left behind, but she cannot possibly be the bride. That's your daughter you're speaking of. She is a stunted little kitchen wench. Does that seem rude to you? Because I think it seems rude. Also, twice he has wondered, could the woman hiding in my backyard be Cinderella? But he doesn't think to mention these suspicions to the prince, ever. I mean, if it were me, I would not be going out of my way to insult a woman who I thought could potentially be the future queen of the country I live in. That seems like a bad idea. Prince is able to get Cinderella brought out to him. But of course, it's not until she tries on the shoe, which probably still has some blood in it, I'd like to mention. I don't think that's very hygienic. But she still puts on the shoe, and then, once the shoe is on her foot, the prince realizes, I danced with this woman for 3 nights. But he never recognized her face until the shoe's on. Did he even look at her face once, or was he just staring at her feet? Maybe he's a really bad dancer and is just watching his feet, so he never once looks at who he's dancing with. He just sees the feet. Of course, we need to have a happy ending. So there's this big wedding, Cinderella marries the prince, and Cinderella's stepsisters go to her, and they're trying to win favor with her, because, you know, they were mean to her, and she's now the queen, so you want to get on good terms with her. And of course, if you remember, Cinderella's mother's dying breath was used to tell her daughter to be pious and good all her life. So Cinderella's birds peck out the stepsister's eyes.